It's Amanchu. Welcome to Minecraft Bedrock vs. Java, where I play through both versions of the game and compare them. You know, I really like building farms. I feel like I've kind of neglected, building things in this world, things that are pretty to look at, but I really like building farms. And today I want to build another farm. I want to build a general-purpose mob farm in both the Bedrock world and the Java Edition world. I'm starting out here in Java Edition. It's going to provide me with some materials I really need, like string. I need string. I need gunpowder so I could have rockets. In fact, how many rockets do I have left? I think 14 rockets is all I got right now. That's it. And I'm kind of just about out of gunpowder. So that'll be nice to have, a source of gunpowder. And the general purpose mob farm will give me bones too. And, bone meal is never not useful. But I think I'm going to build it here. This spot I've marked as the mob farm. I'm going to build it here. My base is here. That's where I am right now. I'm going to build it here. And I've already made a path through the nether to get to it. The design for a farm that I'm going to use in Java Edition, I could sort of make a similar design in Bedrock Edition, but it would be less than optimal. It wouldn't work very well. And I really think I should take advantage of the different mechanics for mob spawning and how that stuff works to make a farm that's optimal for both versions. So that means the Bedrock Edition version of the mob farm is going to look very different from the Java Edition one. And I'll try to talk about why it's different, why the Bedrock version won't work in Java Edition, and why the Java Edition version isn't optimal for Bedrock as I go along. For both the farms, I'm working on the assumption that the simulation distance is greater than 8, because it is. I think I have the simulation distance set to 12 in the Java Edition world. I can't remember what it is in Bedrock, but it's definitely above 8. If you have a simulation distance of 4, that affects where mobs can spawn. With a sim distance of 4, they will spawn between 24 blocks away from you and I think 64 blocks away. But with a higher simulation distance of 8 or above, they'll spawn between 24 blocks away from you and 128 blocks away. That's important because I need to make platforms for the mobs to spawn on that are the only place that mobs can spawn within a 128 block range. If you had a smaller simulation distance, then you might not need to have as large of an area that's spawn proof. There's also the consideration that the farm could be pretty big with the larger simulation distances and mobs able to spawn up to 128 blocks away. The farm could be pretty big, but it's not going to be. And in fact, I think the design I'm making will work with a sim distance of 4 in both the Java world and the Bedrock world. I believe in these 2 shulker boxes I have all the materials I'm going to need to make this, and then some. I think I have more than enough material. Just got to figure out where to start from here. Building it above an ocean makes the most sense because it's lots of flat open area with nothing that's spawnable around. I also want to make sure that this island's lit up well enough that nothing will spawn on it, because I think I'm going to build it close to or on top of this island. I had the advantage of the debug screen in Java Edition. I can look at the block light everywhere here. As long as the block light isn't 0, everything's lit up well enough. Okay, I think I'm good. Now, let's see, where to start? I have to build this from the bottom up, so I'm going to start with the collection system, which is going to be on the bottom. I think I might build it right here. Let me get some chests and hoppers. Stack up 4 chests high. That seems good. Alright, then I put hoppers leading into those. And then I'm going to put 2 more hoppers out from there. Arrange the hoppers in a 3x3 pattern. Like so, and they all lead into these hoppers that lead into the chests. I'll put glass blocks on top of that, so I can still access the top chest and open and close it. Now these hoppers are where I'm going to kill all of the mobs that drop down. I'm going to put whole campfires on top of these hoppers. Let me get a shovel. I want to put that out. I'll light up again once I get the farm going, but I don't want to risk hurting myself on these soul campfires, and the smoke is kind of distracting, so put them out for now. Soul campfires, you know, they kind of work like regular campfires. You can cook things on them. They give off less light than normal campfires, but the advantage they have is they do twice as much damage when you're standing on them as regular campfires do. Alright, now from these, I'm going to build out 8 blocks in every direction. I'm building here the platform, not where the mobs are going to spawn, but where I'm going to catch them all and use water streams to wash them all into the center where the fires are. Alright, now I just fill in the square. For Java Edition, mobs will spawn more efficiently the lower in the world you are. So it's more efficient to have a farm as low as possible. I'm making it here at sea level because making it lower than sea level would be impractical, to say the least. There. Now it's done, and I'm left with a 19 by 19 platform with a 3 by 3 hole in the middle. Sound familiar? That's the exact size platform that I used for the iron farm in Bedrock Edition. Except instead of spawning iron golems on this platform, I'm just going to be catching the mobs that spawn and funneling them to the center to kill them. The mobs will not spawn on this platform. I can make the spawning platforms higher up. And around the outside, I'm going to put a layer of leaf blocks. I'm using leaves here because nothing can spawn on them. So if I want to spawn-proof an area, this is a good way to do it. Alright, now, I like to use ice blocks to create the water sources because I can hold a stack of 64 of them, and it's a lot easier than schlepping buckets of water back and forth. If it's bright enough, the ice should melt on its own, but it didn't, so I'll just break the blocks by hand. There we go. Now the water flows, everything goes into the center where the campfires will be lit, soul campfires, and the hoppers underneath. Perfect. Now, I need to build the platforms above the center of this for things to spawn on. I'm going to build up on top of that. So 3 blocks above this. That seems about right. And then there. I'll put a dispenser facing upward. And in that dispenser will go a water bucket. I actually don't need the water buckets in there just yet, but I'll put it in there to demonstrate to start with. I'm going to build out from this dispenser 7 blocks in every direction. 7. And then just fill everything in a diamond shape. This could be made with any solid blocks, doesn't have to be wool. Why am I using wool? Because I have a wool farm and I have a crap ton of wool that I don't know what to do with. So I'm using wool. Yeah, it uses the better part of 2 stacks of wool for each platform. I want to activate this dispenser somehow to show off what it does. So when I activate this, it dispenses the water, and the water flows out to all the edges and doesn't flow over the edge. That's what I want it to do. But I don't really want it dispensed just yet. Let me pick that up for now. And I'll put a torch in here so that, for now, this platform will be spawn-proof. Need to put a observer here. It may be difficult for me to do this. I need to face it down. There we go. Okay. So now I've placed the observer so that it's actually facing up. And it outputs a signal downward to the empty space below it. Whenever there's a block update to the space it's facing, it sends a redstone signal to the empty space below it, and that will activate the dispenser. This makes use of something in Java Edition known as quasi-connectivity, where there's not actually anything there, but it's acting as if there is a block there for it to send a redstone signal to that activates this dispenser. Bedrock Edition doesn't have that feature. This, I believe, was originally a bug in Java Edition, which has turned feature and is widely used in a lot of redstone builds. If I was to build something like this in Bedrock Edition, I'd have to do it a little differently to make this work. But it is possible to make it work. And put another observer there. And dispenser there facing up. And build another platform just like the one below it. I intend to make 8 levels like this. So the way this will work is there's an observer underneath this dispenser looking at the dispenser. So when this dispenser activates and dispenses water, or takes the water back into an empty bucket, either way, when it activates, the observer underneath it will pulse, and that'll activate the dispenser underneath it. And so all I have to do is activate something at the very top to get all the dispensers activated at the same time. I'm going to put water buckets in the bottom 4 platforms to start with. Leave the top 4 platforms until I'm done. Okay. Now that I've activated that top block, I have water on the 4 lower levels and no water on the upper levels. So I want to now put water buckets in the upper 4 levels. So what will happen now is every time this observer activates, all the dispensers on all the platforms below will activate, and I'm going to have half of these platforms with water on them and a half without water on them at all times. That's going to mean there will always be spawnable platforms. If all of the platforms had water on them at the same time, then I would have long periods of times where there's no spawnable space at all. So that's not good. So in order to activate this setup, I'm going to use some repeaters. No block there. Redstone dust on top of the note block. Yes. Now that's cycling too fast. I gotta slow down this cycle by setting all the repeaters to 4 ticks. I could have used an Athonian hopper clock for this too, but I thought this might be a better idea. Okay. This farm should work just like this, but it's only going to work at night because these platforms are mostly not going to be dark enough. I need to block the light out so that things can spawn day and night. For that, I'm going to put a bunch of slabs up there. I'm also actually going to want to light up the roof here as well, so nothing spawns up here. I'll put lower half slabs out here so nothing can spawn on this platform, but it also blocks light. In Bedrock Edition, slabs do not block light, so I would have to use something else to block the light. And when I get to the Bedrock Edition farm, I will have to do something similar to block the light, but use some method other than slabs. Okay, I'm going to go out 9 blocks from every side, and that should make the skylight low enough so the platforms are dark enough that mobs will spawn. Because for mobs to spawn, the block light has to be 0, but it's good enough if the skylight is less than 7. It's a little confusing, the difference between block light and skylight. I made a few adjustments to this to make use of all the repeaters that I had made for this. In hindsight, an Athonian hopper clock probably would have been a better idea, but it is what it is. If the timing of this is too quick, I can resort to making an Athonian hopper clock later. Now, I need to make an AFK spot. Alright, now I'm going to make my AFK spot. I'm going to build up to, about Y192-ish. I think that's a good place for it. Because at about Y192 or so, I should be 128 blocks above sea level. And at that height, nothing will spawn, except possibly on the island, except the island's well lit, so it shouldn't spawn on the island. The only spawnable space within range of me should be the spawning platforms I made for the mob farm. Alright, from up here I can just AFK and wait. I am right at cloud level. That's kind of how the iron farm worked out in Bedrock Edition too. So I'm right at cloud level, I'm AFKing, and I am at what? Y192. The only issue that this farm might have is one of the things that can spawn is witches. Occasionally I'll get witches, and this mob farm cannot kill the witches. The witches can give themselves potions of fire resistance, and the fire won't kill them. I just have to, wait, and they'll eventually despawn. There won't be that many witches, and I don't think they're gonna hurt my rates at all. Let me see, while I was up here building stuff, how much I managed to get from this. Yeah, so I'm getting rotten flesh. I already have over 2 stacks of gunpowder. I have a stack and a half of bones and all of this string, plus some arrows, which I don't know what I'm going to do with those. I don't really need arrows. All right, let me empty those chests out, and we'll see how much I get AFKing there for about an hour. Alright, so I've been recording AFK for about an hour, and while I'm sitting down here at the bottom of the farm, pretty much I'm close enough to all of the platforms that nothing's going to spawn on them, pretty much. And this is what I got, like, before I started the hour, as I was finishing up the build. This is what I've gotten over the hour that's happened since, roughly an hour. Plenty of gunpowder, a bunch of string, that's fantastic. I'm no longer short on string. Lots of bones, arrows that, again, I have no idea what I'm going to do with those, but I got lots of arrows. Rotten flesh I can sell to the cleric. And raw chicken and feathers. I'd wondered before what the heck that was. Every once in a while you'll get a baby zombie chicken jockey. Like a little baby zombie riding on a chicken. And that's what the chicken and feather is from. So it's not a bad haul. Now, I just have to build another mob farm in Bedrock Edition, and I can see how well it compares with the rates I'm getting in this Java Edition farm. But regardless of whether the rates are comparable or not, I know for certain This Bedrock Edition build is going to be a lot more involved. I'm going to need a lot more material. It's going to take me a lot longer to do. I guess I better get started with it. And now I'm in the Bedrock world, and I'm going to make a mob farm here in pretty much the same location that I made it in the Java Edition world, which would be up there, right next to where my iron farm is. Now, in theory, as I said, I could make a similar design to what I did in the Java Edition world, but it wouldn't be very efficient. It wouldn't work very well. I'm going to make a farm for Bedrock Edition that takes advantage of certain Bedrock Edition game mechanics, which won't work at all in Java Edition, but should give me a little bit better, more optimal design for Bedrock. This farm is going to be a bit more involved than the Java Edition version, which I only needed like 2 shulker boxes of stuff to build it. I need a few more shulker boxes of stuff for the Bedrock Edition version, and I hope I didn't forget anything. Alright, here we are. First of all, this design is going to use a Trident Killer. And a Trident Killer is something that uses a lot of redstone. In Bedrock Edition, redstone tends to have trouble when it's placed across the borders of a chunk. It gets a little buggy, a little flaky. So for that reason, I need to chunk align this build. It's not something I want to do unless I really have to. But in this case, I kind of do. I need to make sure that the Trident Killer isn't across the borders of a chunk. So I've laid out here a single chunk here, a 16 by 16 chunk. And unlike in Java Edition where you could just use the F3G keys to show you where all the chunks are, in Bedrock Edition Vanilla Unmodded, it's a little trickier. The method I used was I did math. I found this spot here, which has coordinates which are divisible by 16. So I know that's the corner of a chunk. And then just counted out 16 blocks in these directions and got the outline of the chunk. And I know that this is the center of the chunk. Now, it's possible I might have miscalculated. It might be off by 1 block, but that should be okay, because I'm going to aim to put the Trident Killer in the center of a chunk. So if I'm off by a block, it'll still not be crossing the borders. Yes, folks, 8 shulker boxes of stuff to make this build. I really need this much stuff. Alright, so I'm going to have to build this from the ground up. That's usually the easiest way to do it. I'm going to start with the system for collecting the drops. Okay, 4 blocks up, I will place the soul soil. That is going to be... my AFK spot will be above this soul soil. Place some packed ice out here. Over there. Hopper's there. Okay. Okay. This is something of a nightmare here. It's really messy looking, and I wish I could have made it look neater or easier to explain. I had to move everything up by a block to fit all the sorting system. What's going to happen is the farm's going to be over there. And all of the drops from the farm are going to come down this channel of packed ice and get collected into these 2 hoppers, which then feed into this sorter system. All this sorter is, I have a single sorter here, a single filter to pull out unstackable items. All of the stuff that's stackable gets through into these chests here. The unstackable items feed into these 2 chests, which then, hang on a minute, their hopper. Then they feed into that dropper that's facing down. And I know it's kind of hard to see in here. This dropper facing down, which faces down into that cactus. And all I have to do is take this timer switch and flip it on. And you can hear that dropper clicking away. It will have any of the unstackable items that end up in it. It's going to just drop them out onto the cactus where it'll be destroyed. But this isn't just going to automatically do it. I have to manually turn it on, which is what I want. Because then I can go through these chests where the unstackable items are and sort through in case there's something I want to save. Alright, that was a nightmare, but it's finally done. Okay. Now, let me make the rest of that channel and build the Trident Killer. Alright, so we got the soul sand here. 2 hoppers. And I want 29 packed ice. There we go. And then from there, I'm going to build up a block and make a 2x2 platform here. This is the floor of the Trident Killer. That's where it's going. And if I counted everything right, this should be about the center of the chunk. Now, Trident Killers, I haven't really explained what those are. This is a Bedrock exclusive feature. When you throw a trident, and you like throw it into the ground, it will stay there. It will persist forever and never go away. And if you have a piston that pushes that trident into the mob, or pushes a mob into the trident, that mob will be damaged, just as if the player had thrown it at the mob. So I'm going to put a couple of tridents right here in the center of these pistons, and then have these pistons fire in sequence, pushing the piston around in a circle, and pushing the mobs into the piston, pushing the mobs into the trident, pushing the trident into the mobs, and killing them that way. That counts as killed by the player, which means I can hold in my hand a sword with the looting enchantment and get the benefits of that looting enchantment, because the mobs count as being killed by the player. On 2 ticks there. Observer facing into that repeater. Repeater on 2 ticks. Observer facing into that repeater. Repeater on 2 ticks. Need a lever somewhere on here so I can turn this on and off. Alright, so what should happen here? Switch this on. Now, with this switch on, this repeater is on. If I turn the switch off, the repeater turns off, the observer detects that, sends a pulse to this block, turning this repeater on, detected by this observer, sending a pulse to this block, turning this repeater on, detected by this observer, turning this blick on, turning this repeater on, and so on and so forth. And it just goes around in a circle, and these pistons should fire in sequence, just like that. And there are other ways you could do this that would make it fire faster. That's not really what I want, though. Because if it goes too fast, the drops from the mobs might not end up going out this channel. Speaking of which, you need to put water source there to help wash all the drops down into the channel. Put a trapdoor here, break that block, and put a magma block there. The purpose of that is I may get baby zombies showing up in that Trident Killer, and they can potentially get out of it and come down this channel. They'll get stopped by that trapdoor, then I won't be able to move further, and killed by the magma block. So that'll take care of that problem. I want to make sure I'm counting this right. Put a button here. Water source there. Button. Water source there. That should be good. Now anything that gets dropped into here should flow down that channel. And end up collecting in the hoppers. I think I want my AFK spot to be 10 blocks up from here. Okay. Probably the easiest way to make this bubble column. There we go. So what this is for is experience. Because I'm going to get experience from this Trident Killer as well. It'll flow along with the items all the way down here. The hoppers won't pick them up. And they'll go all the way to this bubble column and up to my AFK spot. I move the stairs to the side, so hopefully this works. Yeah, it looks like I got the Trident in there. I need to be able to throw them into there from the outside, and that should work. Nicely lodged in there. So I moved the stairs from over here to over here so I could shoot it, because when it was over here, because when this is in the off position, this piston is extended, it was blocking me, so I couldn't get the pistons inside. So now this should work. I have redstone power going all the way back up through some repeaters and then up to my AFK spot. You see that redstone torch there is powering all of this line through the repeaters and keeping that powered. Now, if I go up to where the AFK spot is, and eventually I'm going to enclose this, but just for now I'm setting this up. And I flip this switch. Now that redstone lamp turns on. That tells me the Trident Killer is active. And you can see in the distance the repeaters of the Trident Killer flickering on and off, so I know that it's working. If I fly down here, piston shoving the tridents around in a circle. Alright, so that part is working. That's good. Another thing about those tridents, I put Impaling 5 enchantment on them. I said before when I raided the Ocean Monument that Impaling works on aquatic creatures. Creatures that naturally spawn in water, generally speaking. That's not entirely true. In Java Edition, it works on aquatic creatures, and in fact, drowned don't count as aquatic creatures. They count as undead. So Impaling doesn't work on drowned. Speaking of which, that's kind of curious. I have drowned spawning in here occasionally, and they get killed by the same trap, or by an iron golem that happens to be there at the same time. I think I might be getting some Nautilus shells from this. I'm definitely getting rotten flesh from it. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Right, so in Java Edition, aquatic creatures are affected by Impaling. In Bedrock Edition, Impaling affects anything that's in water, anything that's touching water, or if it's in the rain. So by flooding the bottom of that Trident Killer, anything that drops in there is going to be affected by the Impaling enchantment. I want to place magma blocks 8 blocks out. 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to have a spawning platform off to the left and right of this channel. And the mobs are going to fall into this channel and take damage on these magma blocks as they go along, so that they're weakened up by the time they get to this Trident Killer. And if I get, spiders that are an issue and don't want to go down, if any mobs fight the current, they'll get killed by the magma blocks anyway. Now build these platforms out 8 blocks from the channel. 1, 2, 3, 8. Alright, so I've made these platforms. Hopefully I made them the right size. If I did, that water will flow right to the edge and not beyond it. That's good. That's what I was hoping. So this is 8 blocks wide on this side, 8 blocks wide on that side. You can see I have glass along the wall here so I can see inside, because my FK spot's going to be over there. There is a particular feature of scaffolding in Bedrock Edition that I want to take advantage of here, and that is that mobs can spawn inside of scaffolding. In Java Edition, they can't. They can spawn on top of scaffolding, but not inside it. But in Bedrock Edition, if I place scaffolding there, a mob can spawn on that block. What that allows me to do is place down scaffolding covering this entire platform, and then put water above the scaffolding, so I'll have water streams that will push the mobs that spawn and are inside the scaffolding. It'll push them down toward the pit. That is assuming that those mobs are 2 blocks tall. There's some mobs that are not 2 blocks tall that will spawn in here, like spiders. Now, spiders aren't too bad of a problem for that because they like to climb upward if it's possible for them to do so. They'll climb up through the scaffolding into the water stream and get pushed that way. The other one is baby zombies, and baby zombies are a bit of an issue. The hope is that either they'll eventually despawn, or they'll get pushed by other mobs that are getting pushed by the water, or they'll just, through normal pathfinding, happen to wander off the edge of the platform. Speaking of wandering off the edge of the platform, to confuse the mobs' pathfinding and hopefully get them to, like if they're spiders, not climb back up the walls, I'm going to put coral fans along the walls here. That should confuse the pathfinding of mobs, like the baby zombies, into thinking they can walk right across that, and also hopefully prevent the spiders from climbing back up. Okay, now I just have to create the water sources. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this isn't going to work. If I break these ice blocks on top of the scaffolding, it'll just disappear. In order for it to form a water source when you break it, there has to be a solid block under it or another ice or water block under it. But if it melts, it will turn into a water source. Let's just put lights up there for it to melt. In the meantime, I gotta place all the scaffolding on this side. So the floor of the next platform is just going to go up 1 block, and I'll repeat. And I want to make about 8 levels if I got enough materials. Hopefully I prepared enough materials. I don't know, something went wrong. The tridents disappeared. They're just not even in the trident killer anymore. I don't know what happened. I made a couple more though, and I can toss them in here. I want to throw them in front of one of the piston heads. Should be good. Tridents are not easy to come by, so I don't like that I lost them. Hopefully those tridents will stick around. I hope. That's the sound of a working trident killer. Yeah. I think it's working now. My other 2 tridents just vanished somehow. I thought maybe it was because I had them in the wrong position, but now I'm not really sure why. I have 8 levels of platforms. I'm almost done. So there's one more thing I need to do to finish this. I need to cover everything up so that it's going to be dark all the time, day and night. Some levels of this platform may actually be dark enough for mobs to spawn during the day already, but I need the whole thing to be darkened so mobs can spawn. But one of the unique features of Bedrock Edition mob spawning is that there's a separate mob cap for cave mobs and above ground mobs. And if I covered up this upper platform with solid blocks to block the light, it would count as being in the cave. I want this top level to count as above ground, so that I have at least some spawnable space that's not in a cave. And to do that, I'm going to use leaf blocks. Let me go up, I'd say 9 blocks is a good level. I'll go up 9 blocks from the top, and then place leaf blocks over the entire space of this upper platform. Now, leaf blocks are transparent, or at least semi-transparent. So they don't necessarily block skylight, but they reduce the skylight by 1 level. And then everything below the leaves, the skylight level will drop by 1 per block below the leaves. So placing the layer of leaves 9 blocks above that platform, actually 9 blocks above the water streams, means that the light level is going to be 14 right under the leaves, because, you know, full skylight in the middle of the day is light level 15, so it's going to be level 14 right under leaf blocks. And by the time it gets down to the level of the water streams, it'll be light level of 5 or 6. And the water also reduces the light level by 2 at the level where the solid blocks of that platform where the mobs spawn. It's going to be a light level of maybe like 2, and we're talking skylight. If the skylight level is less than 7, mobs can spawn, so that should be good enough. And since the leaf blocks don't count as solid blocks, that upper platform will be not a cave, so it will use the above ground mob cap. I just hope I remember to bring enough leaves. I don't have enough leaves. Well, I've run out of leaves, but there's a big forest over there. I can collect some more leaves. Before I do that, I forgot I need to spawn-proof the top of that wall of the upper platform. That's easy enough to do. Let's just put glass blocks up here. So what if the leaf blocks aren't all the same color? I don't want any light bleeding around the edges, so I need to build out from these edges. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and say 9 blocks on every side. There. It's done. Now, I could trust that these torches will be sufficient, but I'd like to make sure this place is spawn-proof. So let me put some slabs over everything. I don't need slabs on the leaf blocks, but I will need to put slabs over all of the solid blocks. At last! At long last! I don't want to tell you how long this took. It was many hours, and it's one of those things that cause you to start to want to reevaluate your life choices. Because, yeah, it's huge, and it was a pain in the butt to make. I certainly hope all that effort is worth it. Let me head back. And now all there is left to do is turn on the Trident Killer and let this thing run. I should start to see various drops from the mobs coming down this way. I can see them coming down the chute. And experience points coming down as well. It looks like I'm getting a few occasional items slipping through as well. I was hoping the hoppers would pick up everything. It doesn't look like they are, unfortunately. But I'm just going to build up this place around my AFK spot. I need to be a little more secure so I could sit here AFK safely. Hang around for at least an hour and see what kind of rates I get from this thing. I hope it's worth it. That's all I can say. I hope it's worth it. These poor phantoms are really confused. Like, trying to get to me, they have no idea how to do it. Well, I didn't set a timer or anything, but I think it's been about an hour. I was fidgeting around a little bit of the time, not holding the sword with the looting effect, so that I could, finish building the shelter and get my spyglass out and look at how the farm was doing. I also had phantoms show up in the night because I just have glass above me, so they can spawn, and they can't figure out how to get to me, so they just got confused. I did notice some drowns spawning in that iron farm, so I'm curious to see what kind of drops I get from that, in addition to the drops from the iron golems. I had to add a third hopper down there for the collection system to try and collect stuff coming down the chute, and I'm still getting drops showing up in my inventory. And also, every once in a while, I'll actually get hit and take damage from something. It's from mobs that have armor with the Thorns enchantment on it. And since getting killed by the Trident Killer counts as getting killed by the player, yeah, I get damaged when they get hit when they're wearing Thorns armor. Anyway, I did turn that off, right? Make sure I turned that off. Yes, I turned the Trident Killer off. Mobs will still spawn in the farm, it's just they'll end up down in the Trident Killer and just chill out there because it's not active. Alright, let's see what kind of drops I got. Oh my. That's full. Okay. Let's try to see what kind of drops I got here. It's theoretically possible that I could get potions from witches. I'm not actually seeing that, though. Alright, well, let's turn this on. Drop all those items on the cactus and just eliminate them all. Plus some of this other crap. I also appear to have ended up with unstackable items in here. Part of that is because the sorting system's imperfect, but part of it's because I ran out of room for unstackable items. Alright, spend a little time organizing this into something that, like, makes sense. Here's the more useless stuff. I don't really need arrows. I'm not going to need all these spider eyes. And the rotten flesh, well, I put a couple clerics in the iron farm for a reason. I can sell those to the clerics. And this is some more useful stuff. Lots of bones. The iron ingots, carrots, and potatoes are occasional drops from zombies. Also got a bunch of string, a bunch of gunpowder. All of this stuff is drops from witches, which the Java Edition farm cannot provide me. But I'm getting these drops, including Potion of Healing. Nice. And I also got this pair of boots, which I might hold on to. I think that could be handy. Alright, one other thing I'm a little curious about. In the time that I was doing this, wow, look at all this stuff. So I have 40 Nautilus shells, and a bunch of rotten flesh in here, and some ink sacs, so I guess I'm getting squid forming in there too. I wasn't short on Nautilus shells in Bedrock Edition anyway, but now I'm really not short on Nautilus shells. I don't know what I'm going to do with all those. So this farm is at least competitive with the Java Edition farm, but oh my god, it was a lot more work to build it. Worth it though. Worth it. If you made it this far in this video, you probably like what you saw, so click on the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and see what kind of cool stuff I get into building next time on Amon Chooses Minecraft, Java vs. Bedrock.